Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're Masechtas Yevamot daf Pei Gimel. We're going to begin on Pei Beis Amud Beis as a review. Tanan, androgynous noise. So we mentioned that an androgynous in our Mishnah, this person can marry a woman, which again is mashma that there's some concept that this individual is actually a zachar. On this, Rashi explains that what does this mean? Now it's noises lachatchila. Alma zachar malihu. It's mashma he's just a regular man. It's androgynous. V'kasha Reish Lakish damer ein machil b'chazav shaik. According to Reish Lakish, he says now to eat chazav shaik. Why not? If he lachatchila is allowed to get married, it must be because we consider him a zachar. So if he's a zachar, so then he should be able to eat chazav shaik with zakayin. Whereas says tani im nasa. No, it's only referring to b'diavad. If he got married, says Rashi, the boy git mine, he has to give a get. Mishum safek zachar le'om sveikahu. He holds really a suffix, which is the same reason, therefore, why he wouldn't be able to eat the chazav shaik. I bahan noise katani. It says noise, which is mashma chadchila. So what? Well, tameich my avalo nisa. What does that mean? That he cannot get married by a man. El my nisa diavad. Noise nami diavad. So when it says that he's not allowed to, means even b'diavad he can't. So over here, b'diavad it works. However, because he's a suffix, so he has to give a get. So naisinami is diavad. So amri lo nosei l'chatchila mashma. When it says noisei of actually marrying a woman, l'chayra, that sounds l'chatchila, which sounds like a zachar is allowed. Of lo nisa diavad nami lo. However, when it comes to a man marrying the androgynous, that doesn't even work even b'diavad. Okay. Now, Tani Seifa, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, the end of the Mishnah says, quoting the words of Rabbi Eliezer, androgynous chayavnul of skila kazachar, that if an androgynous has relations with a man, he's going to be chayiv skila just as though he would be a zachar himself. Now, the Now, the fact that he says that it's you're going to be chayav skila, obviously he holds that an androgynous is a vadai zachar, and therefore he had relations with another man, which will be chayav for that. However, therefore, if it's a machlokus, must be the Tanakama disagree and hold it's really a suffix. So don't tell me that we're talking about that nois is l'chatchila because he's a vadai zachar. No. So Gemara says no. Ben lomar mishab shitale. Even according to the Tanakama, it's a double pasha that this person is a vadai is mishab shitale. It's for sure he's a zachar. So therefore, the question is: so then, what's the whole problem about this notion of marrying? So you can benayu skil mishtem kaimos. The whole machlokas between them is only if he has relations with this androgynous, has relations in two places on his body, on their body. A field kuvasoi, which means that even if, let's say, he would have the genitalia of a woman, and he would have relations with a person there, so he would be chayiv there, as well as through the anus. But time of farsha coming mikra b'shmaisen. The marsav chayav olav skila mishnei mekaymas. The marsav kazachar. Now, what is that? Rabbi Eliezer holds he's like a zachar mamish. Bimkom zachors in bimkom nakvas lo. Since what do you mean he's a vadai zachar? He's a vadai zachar, namely that the whole issue of mishkav zachar is if he would have relations, a man would have relations with him b'mokum zachros, which again refers to the anus. However, but mokum nakvus, even if he may have a female genitalia, he's not going to be chayiv having a man having relations with him in that place. However, according to the shita of the Tanakama, he says you're chayiv b'shtei mekaymos. Okay, but again, it's really vadai. So Omer Rav, as we continue to pick a moment off, leisel masnisin mikmei brisa. The Mishnah is not really in the place of the brisa. Says Rashi, Diktani Rav Yosi androgynous Michael es ishto betruma. Since Rav Yosi is certain that he says he's a vadai zachar, so she could not eat truma like the Kohen's wife. But according to him, it says androgynous who marries this woman is allowed to eat truma, right? Fine, which is mashma that he's a vadi zachar. Desanya, Rabbi Yosi Omer androgynous biri b'fnei atzmahu. According to him, he says that an androgynous is like a completely different creation unto itself. Lo hechriu bo chachamim im zachar nekeva. And the Chacham just don't know if he's a male or female. So therefore, no truma would be allowed. Now our Mishnah, again, it says that as it says, now over here, it says that they would not be able to because it's birim b'fnei atzma. So adarabba leisel b'reisim k'mei masnisan. Why do you want to say that the Mishnah doesn't have its place? Maybe the Brisa doesn't have its place, and the Mishnah is what's strong. The Mishnah which says an androgynous who gets married, she could eat truma. So midishavki Rabbi Yosef Labar Zuge, the fact that he left his partner, as Rashi says, the Ari Bahadei B'Mastisin the Ari B'Braisel Chudei, and he speaks by himself. Shmamina Haderbe. It must be that he retracted. Shmuel Omer Leisel Braisa Mekmei Mastisin. He says that the Braisa has no place in front of the Mishnah. Adarabba, Leisel Mastisin Mekmei Braisa. Tar Shamina Leilu Shmuel Dechayish Leyechidah. We know that Shmuel is chayish for an individual, so he should hold of the more machmir opinion found in the Braisa that no truma should be eaten due to a suffix. So Hanimili, when does he say that he's chayish according to the Yachid, an individual opinion like in the Braisa, which says she would not be able to eat truma if she was married to an androgynous, is kilo misakra mastisen, if it wouldn't uproot the Mishnah from its place. However, avul ki misakra mastisen lo chayish. If the Braisa completely uproots the Mishnah, in other words, maybe he'll hold a Yechidah of a Braisa where it doesn't contradict the Mishnah completely, but over here it does, and therefore he's not going to hold of this Chumrah to be Chayish of a Yachid. Amri Bei Rab Mishmei de Rab Halacha K'Rab Yosi Bandroigenis. Halacha, in fact, is like Rab Yosi when it comes to the din of androgynous, also of harkava, which we'll see grafting. We'll see what that means. Shmuel Omer b'koishi u v'kiddush. That the halachas like Shmuel when it comes to labor pains in kiddush, which again we'll see what that means. So androgynous hadamar. So first of all, we're going to hold like Rabbi Yosi that holds that an androgynous is a vade zachar, right? So that's what we said. And therefore, if he's a vade zachar like our Mishnah, then if he would marry, he should be able to eat the truma. Harkava, what does it mean by the grafting? Ditnan, ein noitin ve'in mavrichin. A person not to plant, or mavrichin is a type of grafting. Ve'in markivin, grafting. Erev shvias pachis m'shloishim yom lifnei Rosh Hashanah. You can't plant 30 days, less than 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. One is not allowed to do that. You have to. It's not just, of course, not about Shemitah. So you have to make sure that if you have planted, it had to have been before that time. Bim nota, v'hivrich v'hirchiv. Let's say you did plant and the like. So yakor, so you have to uproot it. Says Rashi, kakalta b'shvius. Since you planted it within 30 days, it's going to end up like rooting on Shemitah itself. The ein harkava koletas b'pachas m'shoshim yoim. So it's like that you actually planted on the Shemitah, on the Shvius itself. So therefore, if you planted within the 30 days and the act of actually rooting takes place on Shemitah, so therefore that's a problem. So therefore you have to uproot it. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kol harkava sheinu koletas b'shlosh yomim shivin koletas. Any grafting that doesn't take hold within a period of 3 days will no longer take hold. Rav Yosi, Rav Shimon, Omer Shtei Shabbosos, V'yom Rav Nachman, Omer Rav Ravu, L'divrei Omer. Fine. So it's actually 2 weeks. So Rav Nachman, Omer Ravu, L'divrei Omer Shloishim. One who says 30 days, so Shloishim is Shloishim. It's not just that you need 30 days; you need 30 and another 30. Why? Kedei shetikloit Shloishim lifnei Shvius. So we want it already rooted 30 days before. The whole shloishim Livnei Shvius Kishvius Damu. It says, as a din of additions, even 30 days before Shvius is already considered to Shvius. The Nafkalim of B'charsh for Kotzer Tishmois. So we learn that even before 30 days, it's already connected to the Shemitah itself. So therefore, if you hold 30, you actually have to do it 30 and 30, 60 days. So then you need 33. Then you need the 2 weeks and then the 30. Fine. So that's what it's referring to when it comes to Arkava, when it comes to the rooting. So question TA6. Kama shiur tosefes shvius unatia. How much do you have to add on to the shemitah when it comes to planting? Kamasman kaidem l'tosefes asur in toa umadua asur. So he says like this: tosefes lamed yoyim. You have to always add 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, before of shvius. The kaidem hatosefes asur, and before that 30 days, it's either asur 3 days, 2 weeks, or 30 days. The Tam says, Dirshu, Kadeshi Yikloid Kaidem Latosefes. We want it to be completely rooted before those 30 days. So therefore, again, it's those 3 opinions, but again, you already had to tack on 30 days before that. Okay, weiter. So that's, again, we're saying that we paskin in this case, like Rav Yossi, who says, Shtei Shabbosos, 2 weeks. Now, what is this other discussion? Shmuel Eimer b'koishi v'kiddush. So what is koishi, which has to do with labor pains? The Tanan, we learned in Masechtas Nida, it says as follows. It says, Kama yehi kishuya. So if a woman is engaged in labor pains, and she sees dam ziva, so you have the when a woman is a nida for the 7 days, then afterwards is the 11 days of Yimei Ziva, in which if she would see once, so she's considered to be a Shemer Hashem Keneged Yoyim, and she keeps counting, and if it's Ritzufim, 3 days, she becomes a Zava Gedoyla. Now, according to this, is it Shayach if she sees Dam during this time, is it Dam Ziva, or is it blood that's coming because of the Leida? So it's totally on her pain, if she's feeling pain. So if we look in Rashi, Benida di Aresa Hamaksha B'Teich Yud Aleph Shebein Nida L'Nida. Let's say she has this labor pain, V'ro Adam Gimel Yom Ritzufim, and she sees blood 3 consecutive days, Machmas Sar. So, but it's because of the pain of Lada, because she's giving birth. She's in her last days of birth. She's not considered to be a zav. It's considered like she's giving birth. The sign of vlad. The only time you're going to be chay, that's going to be tameh, is only if the dam comes by itself and not because of a vlad. So that's what the Mishnah over there asks. How much pain? When is it considered labor pains and not dam ziva? Says Rashi, "V'kami hekishu idarmina machmas vladhu afil mem o chamishim yoyim kaidem leida." If let's say you're feeling these pains in your second trimester, your first trimester, does that also count? That's not dam ziva. So on this we have a machlokus. So on this you have not kami hekishu shamer omer o arboim o chamishim yoyim, either 40 or 50 days. Which is the Gemara over there. Rashi for some reason didn't bring this down, I don't think. It depends if she's sick or healthy. So a woman who's sick, it's 50 days. So who's healthy, it's 40 days before labor. So, but any time before that, that's considered to be dam ziva. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Daya Chadasha. It's considered to be a month. As Rashi says, Chodesh Tishii, the 9th month. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon Omer Ein Kisha Yossi Mishtei Shabbos. No, it's only for 2 weeks. Now, according to this, again, Rabbi Yossi says it's 2 weeks, and therefore, within the 2 weeks of actual Leida, that's considered to be dam from the Vlad, machmas the Vlad, and therefore she will not become Tumi Tumaziva. What is Kiddush? Did not. Hamasachich gafanai, one who leads their grapevines, al gabi tuvuasoi shel chavera, on the grains field of his friend. Harazeh kidesh, in that case it becomes aser through klai kerem, v'chayim b'achriyuso, and he must pay this individual for the losses that he caused. Says Rashi, Kiddush is lashon pen tikdosh, which means you make it aser. Aser tevuas chavero v'chayav l'shalim. Fine. Question 11. Amr Shmuel halach Rav Yosi b'kushi b'kiddush mehem hilchos koishi b'kiddush. So we said, when it comes to labor pain, the ein kushi hamatayr beziva yersim mishtei shabasos kodem l'leida. It's only within the 2 weeks. Kiddush, one who spreads the grapevines on the grain fields of his friend, will asr lo asra the efsher asr davar shenu shaloi. So we didn't get to that. So he says, according to the Tanakama, you're chayev. That's Rabbi Meir. Here's Rav Yosef Shmipasa. Rav Yosef Rav Shimon Oimrim, as we continue to pay Gimel Mid Beis, says no, that's not true. And Adam Oyser Davar Shenu Shaloi, cannot answer something which is not yours. So what is that? It says Taisvis, V'Emari Davar Hatali B'Machshavahu. This is something which is totally on thought. Yamar Hachi Kagain Mishtachavela Behemas Chaveroi. So in this situation, he would actually say, this is how we're going to paskin, that it's not going to answer the tefua, because you can't answer something which is not yours, and it's not your tefua, so therefore you're not going to be chai. Iboilhu bandroigenis mali or Shmuel. What does Shmuel say when it comes to the dinim of an androgynous? So Tashma the Omer Shmuel Ravanan leisel brisa mikmei mastisin. He says that the brisa does not withstand the words of the Mishnah, which says that again, if he would be able to marry this woman, that she could eat truma. Harkava Mali Yomer Shmuel, what would he say? So Tashma Yomer Shmuel Ravanan Tani Kaman Yomer Shloisha Shloishim. It's like the one who says 3 and 30. Shloisha Ushloishim, which sounds like that's the shita of, let's see, Rav Yosi for Rav Shimon Oimrim says Shtei Shabbosos. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Kol Kav She'ena Koletas B'Shloisha Yomim Shuv Eina Koletas. Okay, so he paskins not like Rabbi Yisrael Chayer. Okay, so Kaishi Mali fine. Kaishi Mali Rav. What does Rav say? It's not so clear what he says. Kiddush Mali Rav. What does he hold when it comes to Kiddush? Again, with these grapevines. So Rav Yosef Tashma Yom Rav Yehuda Rav Ein Halacha Rav Yosi, and therefore you actually are going to be Chai B'Achriyusai. Armalei Abai My Chosas Samchas Aha Samchas Aha. Why you rely on this? Rely on this. The Rav Ada Marav Halacha Rav Yosi. So Amri Be Rav Man Rav Huna Omer Ein Halacha. Okay. Now we're going to see the next part of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Tumtum. So the Mishnah, going back a few blot, said regarding the din of a tumtum, someone who again doesn't really have any signs of whether they're a zach or a nekeva. So it says that if, let's say, shenikra, let's say you tore that part of the body open, v'nimsa zachar, and you find that he has a male organ, lo yachleitz. He says you still can't do chalitzim nishus kasris. He's considered to be like a sris, like he's incapable of having a child. Okay, so Omer Rav Ami my Ovid le Rabbi Yehuda latumtum de viri. What would he do? Let me just make sure I'm finding it. To the tumtum debiri, says Rashi, shahaya ba'oisam makoim. There was this tumtum in that place, va'oilad zayin banim, and he had 7 kids. Almalav srisu. Obviously, it's not true. He could have kids. Diasvuha abe kurte, that they put him on a chair. V'ikra, and it tore that member. Va'oil sheva benin. Again, he had 7 kids. So we see clearly he's not a sris. So Rabbi Yehuda, as we saw this lashon before as well, or Malay, if that's the case, chazer al banav mi'ayinhim. You should go look at the children where they came from. As Rashi says, ishto zinsa, because it couldn't be from him, because he's staying steadfast that it must be that this person is a sris. Tanya Rabbi Yosi Rabbi Yehuda Omer Tumtum lo yachleitz. So tumtum shenatu chalitza shema yikara, because if let's say you tear him open, v'nimsa sris chama, you'll find that he was a sris chama. Outu kol de mikra zachar have. What are you trying to tell me? That every time you tear open this area, you're going to find that he's actually a zachar? May not even be a zachar. Hachikamer shema yikra. Maybe you'll tear him up in nimsa nekeva. Maybe it'll be in a nekeva. Ifilu nimsa zachar shem yamatz sres hema. So even if it's true that it's a zachar, it could be a nekeva. But if it's even as a zachar, it's a sres. So my binayu, what really is the difference? Says Rashi, my ika ben Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Huda lavua. So what's the difference? So the Gemara says, Omarava lift soil bimkoin achim, v'lacha shlo b'makam achin ika binayu. So it's a apostle in the place of his brothers, says Rashi, im yesh achin shleimen imoy. Let's say this guy has other brothers, and they're shleimen, they're regular men. V'cholatz la tomtom. And the tomtom, this brother stood up and he did chalitza on this girl. So Rabbi Huda di'armer shehu kisris. The one who he says he's mamash a sris, machzak lebes sris vadai, that he's considered to be like a sris vadai v'lo pasla ala achen. So she's not going to be puzzled to the other brothers because that chalitza is nothing because he had no ability to have kids. Therefore, misyavemes. According to that shita, the other brothers, one of the brothers could still do yibum with her. It's not considered to be lo yivna anymore. Rav Yosi shema Katani Sfeku. According to him, he says it could be a Zachar, Nekeva, so the whole thing's a suffix. Upasla Achen. And therefore, actually, because it's a suffix, that will force that the brothers are not able to do Yibam afterwards. Dilma lav Sris Havi v'chalitzahi. Maybe actually he's not a Sris. It's just a suffix. And therefore it was a valid chalitza. Or another difference is V'lacha shlo b'makam achim. Doing chalitza where there's no brothers, says Rashi. Let's say this guy is the only one. This tumtum is the only brother in town. This other brother died. He left his wife childless. Rabbi Yehuda will boy chalitza minei. According to Yehuda, he says you don't need to do chalitza. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda boy chalitza misafek. He would say you still misafek. This guy still needs to do chalitza. Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda Marav. Rav Abba Achua Rav Yehuda bar Zavdi. Rav Yehuda Marav. Androgynous chayavan alav skill mishneim and kaimai. So we said before that an androgynous who has tashmish with a man, he's going to be chayiv when it comes to having relations in two different parts of his body. Meisvei Frakti Gemara Rabbi Lezer androgynous chayavan alav skill kibazachar. He's only chayiv like a zachar, which means through the anus, as we said, which is in one place. B'medbar Muriam b'zachros, as we said, b'zachros shelo. It literally means by his anus. Aval b'nakvus shelo potter, but his nakvus he would be potter. So we see according to him, you're not chay b'shteim kaimais. So who di'amar ki haytan the Sanya Rabbi Simoy Omer and Jorgan is chayilavim skill b'shteim kaimais. Actually, you're chayiv by both of those places. My time, Rabbi Simoy. So why does Rabbi Simoy say you're chayiv in both places? Omerava Bar Hamduri Asfili, based on the pasuk, I explained as Zachar Latishka Mishka Isha. So Ezehu Zachar. Where do we find a man Sheshbo Shnei Mishkavos that it says Mishkave Isha? Where do we find that a person could have Shtei Mishkavos, two physical places where this man could have relations with this person with? Haviyarm is androgynous. This is referring to this person who is an androgynous, who again displays both simanim, both signs of a male and a female. For Rabbanan afagav the isbeish name mishkavos as zachar ksiv, even though it's true, but it says as zachar, which is mashma only bimkum zachros and not bimkum nakvos. For Rabbanan zachar greidim anolhu. So zachar itself, how do we know he's going to be chayiv? Just a man having relations with him. Bezachros. So meisha shaloi kadarka. Fine, to find that word. Now meisha shaloi kadarka minalahu. How do we know a woman is also? It's a bia shaloi kadarka. So he learns mevisha. Amarav Shizbi Amarav Chista Lola Kolam Rebbe Lezer and Dragon Zachar Malihu. The truth is, not in all situations does he call the androgynous, does he say is an absolute man. Shimata Omer Kain, if in fact it would be a zachar, then we would say b'mukdashim yikdash. That when it comes to animals that are this category of androgynous, you should be able to sacrifice them. But we hold it's not. How do we know if you're makdish an androgynous animal that it doesn't work? A sodomized bird, or a muksa, one who's designated for avodah zarah, and nevid used for avodah zarah, esnan and mechir, these are used for the purchases of the services of prostitution. The tumtum androgynous, this is going to talk about animals here, but it says that an androgynous mitamin begadim bebesabliya. According to this, it can be mitamin begadim when you swallow it. Says Rashi, kedin nevelus oif tahar. Just like if you would eat a kosher bird, but it was a nevela and you would swallow it, it's mitamin the begadim, your clothes, a besabliya when you swallow. The kivan de in ruin lahakrava, because it's not fit to be brought on the mizbeach. Rabbi Lezer omer tumtum androgynous in mitamin begadim besabliya. Actually, that's not the case when it comes to these animals which are tumtum androgynous. That if you would eat such animals, unlike when it comes to nevelus oif tahar, here you would not be tameh. Shahir b'lezer omer kol makom shnem b'zachan akeva hatamoitzit tumtum androgynous mibneihem v'oif hoyavu never b'zachan akeva hatamoitzit tumtum androgynous mibneihem. So when the Torah uses the word zachan akeva, it must be a certain zachar. It's very specific. Absolute male, absolute female animal, not a tumtum androgynous. But when it comes to birds, we say even a tumtum and an androgynous, since the Torah doesn't specify the lashon of zachar v'nekeva. Okay, let's stop for 1 second. We're going to finish the parak, but let's see question 12, which is also TB7. He'im sricha hayavama chalitza. Does the yavama need to do chalitza min hatumtum? So if there's no brothers, why not? So it's a machlokus, as we say. That's the ikiminayu, which we saw in Rashi. According to Yehuda, your potter, the af im zacharhu vade inimoilad. Even if this is a man, if they tear this open, he's definitely a sris. He's a srischama, so he's not shaykh to have kids. According to Rabbi Yossi, he says you're chayiv chalitza because he says it's not a vada. It is a case of suffix. Okay. Fine, so let's finish the parak. We also learned something similar to this. Rabbi Lezer Omer, we continue to pay Dalad Ben Aleph. He says as follows: Hakilayim, which Rashi says is posel akrava, when you have these forbidden mixtures of animals, so they're posel to be brought as a carbon. Utrefa, also an animal which has a mortal defect, it's going to die. And an animal in which was not born naturally but through like a cesarean. Tumtum androgynous loy kedoshim v'loy makdish v'loy mekadshin. So the din is you can't be makravit as a carbon, you can't be makdish it. Yomer Shmuel ein kedoshim b'tamura v'loy mekadshin b'oisa tamura shma mina. So when it comes to the din of tamura, so the din is normally if you have a carbon and you have something chulin, and you say I want to exchange the kedusha from this to the other, so that kedusha does transfer over, but the original animal also becomes kaddish. That doesn't work over here because these things intrinsically are not shaykh to have kedusha on them. So therefore, the original animal is not kadosh to be shaykh to do a tamura. Rabbi Lezer Omer chayav l'skil kazachar. Tanya Omer Rav. So Rabbi Lezer ben Shemua, when I went to learn Torah by him, Chavar Lai Talmidov, his students gathered around him, Ketarnagolim Shalbeis Bukya, just like a bunch of Tarnagolim in this place, is Rashi, Bekiyim B'charifim, Ve'in Manichin Tarnagol Nachir B'neihem, V'hinichu Lilmoid El Davar Echad B'Mishnasenu. Rabbi Lezer Omer and Shreginus Chayova Mishum Skila Kizachar. Hanuach oral, Hanuach oral, Hanuach oral. We now continue with the next parak, the 9th parak, that Yeshmu Tarais Labalehen, Yasuris Yavomehem. There's some women who are mutter to their husbands, are usher to the Yevamos, and vice versa, which the Gemara is going to elaborate what all these different cases are, which we will see in tomorrow's daf. Be'ezus Hashem, Ad Kan.